which movie did you rewatch after many years and it turned out to be really different than how you remembered it to be? I only remembered the trap parts of Home Alone from when I was a kid. When I watched it in college, I was surprised to realize the traps were only about 10 minutes of the film. Also, some were way more violent than I remembered, such as the close-up of stepping on a nail. That movie is beautifully written. Early on when the family is running about the house and Joe Pesci is there posing as a cop, the mom/dad/ I don't remember was complaining about Kevin's toy cars being left out on the ground and how you can slip and fall on them. Later Kevin uses those as a trap that they step on and fall from. One of the first things Kevin does when he realizes he's home alone is watch a movie he wouldn't otherwise be allowed to watch. He later uses that movie twice to both get free pizza and to scare off the robbers. He also goes through Buzz's poop because Buzz never allows him to look at his chest and then uses those firecrackers to fake gunshots. It's almost like Die Hard where everything has a purpose and eventually plays into the movie. All dogs go to heaven. That stuff is dark as frick, but then there is some light. But as a kid movie, that stuff is so goddamn dark. Yeah, seriously. It was my second favorite movie as a kid, after Lion King, so I watched it a lot. I didn't catch on to basically any of it, and that baffles me. It's all gambling, and Sudoku and kidnapping and theft. Charlie never wanted to help Anne Mary. I don't know how I couldn't see that as a kid, because it was all over the movie. He changes his mind, and that's how he gets back into heaven, I guess, but still. I think the first time I stated to suspect anything was in high school, learning about the 20s gangsters and Scarface/Al Capone. Grease. I watched it as a 12-year-old, then wanted to show it to my students, who were around 14 years old, and didn't realize how dirty it was. Lots of inappropriate stuff going on in it that went over my 12-year-old head. I was cringing the entire movie hoping it was going over their heads. Watched that nearly every week as a kid and didn't understand half of what I was singing/reciting. Best/worst line to understand as an adult and become horrified that I had been saying it for years. Where are you going? To flog your log. I thought it was a place he was going to. Lol. Watched that nearly every week as a kid and didn't understand half of what I was singing/reciting. Best/worst line to understand as an adult and become horrified that I had been saying it for years. Where are you going? To flog your log. I thought it was a place he was going to. Lol. Did Grease my senior year of high school. The high school versions are so censored we actually had to uncensor it a little and then uncensored it more than our director wanted. So many unplanned pelvic thrusts. As a kid I watched it and thought it was hilarious, but watching it again I realize there are just so many more jokes I just didn't get at the time, but I didn't care cause I was already laughing. Some of the jokes are dated now too, like the send up of the CBS debate sketches and the gag with the name of the microwave. Not to mention, airports are no longer full of missionaries, so that running gag will be lost on anyone who doesn't remember the 80s. I recently rewatched and had to pull up TV tropes for explanations on some stuff. Remembered watching it as a kid on video and glamorous Audrey Hepburn and her fabulous apartment. Rewatched it recently. Damn, the story is depressing AF when you realize Holly is a cool girl and Mickey Rooney playing a nation is just, yeah, it's hella racist. The Land Before Time. 6-year-old me, cool to no movie with relaxing music. That movie is more emotionally complex than most movies aimed at adults. Joy, depression, despair, happiness, hope, friendship, forgiveness, loneliness, fear, triumph, sentimentality, empathy, determination all jammed into 80 minutes. Cars. I can't believe how much it has changed for me. I used to think that McQueen was the best, but now I just realize that he is just some rich, arrogant jerk who expects everything to go his way no matter what. Cars and Ratatouille are inverse plots. McQueen has big city success and fame and doesn't need to connect with anyone to live his best life. Except he does, and what he learns in the low-class Radiator Springs town changes his life for the better. By the end of it, he has friends, family, and his dream. Remy wants to succeed at something wonderful, but his trashy low-class family don't understand him. So he shoves them aside, gets an assistant, and makes magic happen, and with it, fame. By the end of it, he has friends, family, and his dream. Cars and Ratatouille are inverse plots. McQueen has big city success and fame, and doesn't need to connect with anyone to live his best life. Except he does, and what he learns in the low-class Radiator Springs town changes his life for the better. By the end of it, he has friends, family, and his dream. Remy wants to succeed at something wonderful, but his trashy low-class family don't understand him. So he shoves them aside, gets an assistant, and makes magic happen, and with it, fame. By the end of it, he has friends, family, and his dream. McQueen does show character development over the course of the film though. Learns humility and all that. Befriends small town as he considered himself too good to associate with at the beginning, and even gave up a position in the race to help that blue car, can't remember his name right now, to cross the line first. I mean he would have lost anyway, since Chick beat them both, but afterwards the rest of the cars were more impressed with McQueen's sportsmanship than Chick's win. I remember watching the Star Wars Christmas special as a kid. It's Star Wars. Of course it's cool. Then there was about a 20-year period when I thought maybe it was some bizarre fever dream. I found it on YouTube, of course. Oh no. Oh, and who could forget the part where the Empire, who are basically Nazis, bust into the Wookiee house and then just kinda leave. Cause they're bad guys, but they aren't bad enough to arrest anyone, or hold them at gunpoint or thoroughly search the house. Mars Attacks. I saw part of it on TV as a kid, and it freaked me out. The way the Martians looked, with the leering grins, bulging eyes, and skull-like features, and the arrival scene, where they zap a general with a ray gun and he freaking burned into a skeleton scared the crap out of me as a kid, and I assumed it was meant to be a scary movie. About 20 years later, I'm flipping channels and I come across Mars Attacks on cable. I remembered how creeped out I was as a kid, and decided to try watching again. After a few minutes I was like holy crap, this is a comedy. Spirited Away. It was my favorite movie growing up, although I had only seen it maybe 3 to 4 times as a child. I was maybe 3 to 4 years old when I watched it, and I never caught the name of the movie. I tried multiple times asking people, hey, so you know a movie about a girl's parents turning into pigs and the girl goes on a journey to change them back, but I would always get blank stares. Apparently nobody had ever heard of such a story premise. Imagine my luck when years I find a manga version of the very story in my local library. I was so happy, and you bet your bathhouse tokens, that I borrowed that book and read through it. I remember loving every minute of reading the story. Before it ended a third of the way through, it was a manga series and the library only had book 1. I later watched the movie again for the first time in maybe a decade at my BFF's house over winter break. Saw a lot of things I didn't recall seeing, but I still enjoyed it nonetheless. It was when the story came to an end that I was like, what was the point of this movie? Like the main objective of saving her parents was solved, but I felt like something was lacking or missing. It felt like a long string of events that in way could been divided like a TV series, rather than a movie. But that's just me. Okay, I still love the movie, I'm just feeling weird or reminiscing about it. I didn't particularly mind the fact that Chihiro and Kohaku didn't have a romantic ending, but it felt like, now that the journey was over and done with, what now? I get that it's almost like saying this was all a dream or something supernatural, never to be spoken about again. Maybe the right words I'm looking for is that the movie felt really lonely. She's just a young girl trying to solve a really big problem. Of course she has people to help her on the way, but in a sense she also seemed isolated, and I felt very out of body for me. Was I looking at myself? It kinda felt like that. I don't really know why I'm saying TBH, but more or less, the movie gave a very different vibe watching it 10 years after my first run through loving it. I still love it, don't get me wrong, but there's something deep and profound in the story that I think I just can't get a grasp of. Maybe it's time to watch it again. You just have to take the sad with the happy in those films. That's part of what makes them so good. Finding that kind of childhood love and then having to leave never knowing if you will see them again. Not look back until you've passed the train station. I wouldn't have been able to do it. But the point was that Chihiro grew from ungrateful and always looking at things negatively and clinging to her parents to someone who was strong and could walk on her own, make her own choices, not depend on someone else. She did the same for the baby, led No-Face to someone who appreciated him and gave him purpose, and freed Haku, saving his life like he saved hers. It was a bathhouse. They all got cleansed of different issues from their past or present and became out better for it. It's a lot more hopeful than some of his movies, like Princess Mononoke being on the mild end of is there ever really a true peace between humans and nature? The Little Mermaid. Partly wow kid, you're 16 and a complete idiot. Your father really is trying to be fair and protect you from a world that really is dangerous. He blows it when he gets mad and smashes your stuff, but he's a Greek god doing his best with a dozen daughters and no wife. He was willing to sacrifice his life and the entire ocean to a malicious force to save you, and deep down you knew that in advance, you selfish brat. Also the animation quality is ropey as hell. Ariel's whole head drifts into constantly evolving shapes when she sings.